Welcome to my week 5 presentation. My name is Yesenia and this is my Changing Times, Changing Theories presentation. Thank you. So I will briefly discuss Katzen-Kahn, Gratzens, Downs, and finally give my opinion on what I think it should be. So by now we are used to Frederick W. Taylor's management theory, which he explained is the one right way to manage, which was basically efficiency, productivity, and control. So basically, he believed in breaking down tasks so each person can work individually and more efficiently. That way, each little subpart can focus on their own role. But then we have Katzen-Kahn, who kind of said otherwise, or they contributed more in their open systems theory that supported holism, and it stated that every role in an organization works together to accomplish various roles. So Katzen-Kahn explained that there are inputs, process, and then outputs that make up the structure of the organization. So for example, in my work, the input would be the materials, also, which include actually the computers, the printers, the pens, the clipboards. The process would be actually seeing the clients, and finally the output would be the clients receiving their services and receiving their hours. So whatever services they're receiving, that would be the output. So I did include the Jenga because it also did explain in holism that there is no one part that is greater than the other, because since they are interdependent, they interact with one another. So if one part falls, then the rest of the organization is at risk of falling, and that is where the feedback comes from in order to improve an organization. So now we have Gratzens, which I included pictures of cakes because the layer cake and the marble cake concept really helped me understand his ideas. So basically, Gratzens' idea moved from dual federalism to cooperative federalism. So dual federalism would be the layered cake, and cooperative federalism would be the marble cake. So basically, in dual federalism, it explains that the federal, local, and state government are divided, so they don't intertwine. But in cooperative federalism, it expands that powers and resources are mixed among the federal, state, and local government. So basically, it explains that everything is intertwined and interdependent among each other. And some examples of cooperative federalism are federal grants and aids and revenue sharing. So basically, the national and state governments in the country work together to solve common problems. And this came after the failure of the Articles of Confederation, which led to the Federalist Papers, which eventually led to the Constitution being ratified. So now we have Anthony Downs, who shared his views on bureaucracy. And as we know by now, Max Weber also gave his input on bureaucracy, and his belief was that managers were figures of authority and that they needed to be obeyed. So basically, Anthony Downs explained that bureaucracy falls into 5 types of bureaucrats, and he labeled them as advocates, zealots, statesmen, climbers, and conservers. And he stated that basically these classifications separated those people based on their motives. So basically, climbers and conservers, for example, were considered self-interested officials. Basically, advocates, well, it's in their name. They advocate for everything that they can in their jurisdiction. Zealots, well, it was explained basically that they try to antagonize their officials. And statements are basically have various or can act out various positions, which are usually advocates. So Anthony Downs' main focus is mainly about how bureaus come about, how they grow, and their dynamics. And he explains that bureaus are created in order to carry out specific functions within a group, and that expansion is important because this allows bureaus to retain personnel, provide leaders with some type of power, and expend their resources. So, in comparing early theorists and theorists like Katz and Kahn, Grodzins, and Downs, I feel like they mostly resemble what should be applied in management today, because applying Frederick W. Taylor is good in setting up structure, but I feel like the newer theories from the 1960s to 1970s is more modern, and there's more expanded to what the early theorists believed. For example, if Frederick W. Taylor's management theory were to be fully applied today, then it would be violating a lot of labor laws, because Frederick W. Taylor did push employees to the max, as if they were machines, and Katz and Kahn's, Grodzins, and Downs focused more on the overall picture, and they gathered more information. So I believe that it should be in favor of the theorists from the 1960s and the 1970s. And I've included some references that I used to make this slide, and also that were helpful in writing my paper. And we have come to the end of my presentation. Thank you for listening, and I hope you have a great weekend.